Welcome back to another episode of The Culture, the hottest broadcast in the game. Go to my playlist section. We have already released 30 episodes, and we have an entire playlist dedicated to this series. In this series, we shine a light on who's really committing some of the most heinous crimes here in the United States and around the world. This project was inspired by years of me listening to certain conservative voices in the media focus on so-called crime in the black community as if crime was something that was unique to us. So that pushed me to dig deeper into the true crime data, the headlines and the statistics to see where the true criminality is actually coming from. Now, let's get into today's episode. Now, today I'm going to be responding once again to Steven Crowder. You know, like I said, remember he went to the black barber shop to have a conversation with black men. You know, he didn't go to the barber shop. You know, he didn't go to the, the country club. You know, he didn't go to the city council meeting. He didn't go to Home Depot, right, to have a conversation with the white men about what's happening in the white community. He didn't go to the gun range or the college bar to go talk to white men about the tragedies taking place in their own community and how they can improve, right? He felt that it would be more, it would be more juicy. It would be more, more viral if we go to, talk to black men about what's happening in the black community, because that's very safe. Talking about the white community, for some reason, people are scared to do that. That's why we have the culture, right? We have the culture so we can do exactly that. Now, anyway, so I'm going to get into Steven Crowder's video, where he's going to explain, in his thoughts anyway, in his opinion, he's going to explain why he believes that some white folks might become racist. Now, he says he's not racist, but he is going to explain the sentiments that might drive racism, right? Especially at this current time in this current political climate. He's going to give us his perspective. Now, we're going to jump straight into the intro, and then we're going to go into the clip. And then, of course, we're going to get into today's episode of The Culture. Welcome to The Culture. Let's get into it.
If you didn't know already, white men make up 29% of the U.S. population, but are accounted for over 77% of the people caught with child, you know what.
What's that? Get the away from me now, I'm gonna knock your off, son. Why is he doing this? I just want to leave. I've got my property, I just want to leave. I didn't touch him. Palms together. Why are you guys doing this? I didn't touch him.
My faith is what has protected me. My faith is what has protected my heart from becoming racist, but I've had a lot of negative interactions. That's why I'm sitting here. I'm sitting there, I'm sunken eye, and there was a black guy next to me, obviously a dad with like his daughter and his son. And I just kind of looked at him. We looked at each other in the face, like, yeah, we know this is exhausting. And I know we have a lot in common because his wife or woman is probably in the room because he's there with his kids by himself. I was too. But then we were there at the water slides. My kids are 3, and this happened not once, but about 4 or 5 times, and it happened 3 times with one black kid who was about 5 or 6. Shoved my son out of the way to get on the water slide. Okay? My son did nothing. Shoved him out of the way a second time, came back. My son's 2, 3 years, which is a big deal at that point. And then at one point I look over, Mom, no Dad. And I just go like, hey, he's being aggressive. Okay, comes back the 3rd time. Separate, I go, hey, hold on, you have to wait in line. You know what my son said? My son said, well, Daddy, maybe he's in a real hurry. We should let him go. That was a different interaction. That kid kept doing it to every other, and it wasn't the only one. And you know why? Because I've taught my kid, hey, you're going to have people who look different from you, and it doesn't matter. You treat them well. That kid wasn't. And I'm telling you, along with the empirical, anecdotally, if you have a young white person who has these interactions on a regular basis, and I'd be lying to you if I said they were uncommon, while being told they need to shut up because of systemic discrimination, you're gonna create a generation of racists.
All right, we back. Now, yes, folks, the only scenario Steven Crowder could come up with is some anecdotal situation at an amusement park between children, right? He couldn't muster any historical scenario, like, for example, the genocide committed by the Germans in Namibia, right? Or Napoleon's 1802 expedition military campaign to restore slavery in Haiti. That was a campaign of genocide, a war of extermination, right? He couldn't come up with any true crimes against humanity that were committed against his people to justify any negative sentiments, right? We could list a long list of reasons why we harbor negative sentiments, but if we do that, they'll say you're living in the past. But he thinks that he's justified by harboring negative sentiments because, oh, damn, I was at the water park and my kid got pushed off the slide, right? And you notice how he attributes those negative scenarios or those negative interactions due to the race of the person, right? It's because of their race. So now I hate a race because of an individual interaction I had at the water slides, right? But you notice if his demographic commits atrocities, they don't attribute that or any negative behavior, they don't attribute that to their race, right? They say, oh no, that's not a white man, that's a liberal, that's the radical left. Oh no, that's not a white man, that's a person with mental illness. They'll never attribute any negative behavior that they exhibit and attach that to their race, right? They'll never do that. They only attach the positive qualities and the achievements to their race, right? They'll take all the positive qualities and say, oh, that's because of whiteness, right? But they'll never attach any negativity. But they want the liberty to also be able to negatively brand you and attach that to your race. But they'll never do the same for themselves. That's why we had to create the culture to talk about the things they'll never talk about, right? To have the conversations they'll refuse to talk about, at least not in the public. So anyways, man, welcome back to another episode of The Culture. Not wasting no time. Let's get into it, man. First story of the day. October 16th. A man murders a research scientist who let him live inside his home by suffocating him with a belt and a plastic bag. Let's get into it. A jury in New Mexico has found Mr. Daniel Hatters guilty of first-degree murder. He is accused of strangling Christopher Fallon inside Fallon's own home. Fallon was a chief scientist in Wyoming and had shown generosity by allowing the suspect and his friend to live inside his home. Fallon was found dead by concerned coworkers who traveled to his home after he missed several days of work. They discovered his body bound with duct tape. Prosecutors stated that Fallon was found with his head wrapped in tape and a belt secured around his neck. The cause of death was asphyxiation. The home had been robbed, and Fallon's car, along with all his electronic devices and financial documents, had been stolen. Now, time out. Fallon, that's the guy to the right, that's the victim. To the left, that's the suspect who apparently he opened his doors to this individual, right? I guess because he got a few dollars. He's a scientist, so he lets this guy, I don't know the relation, if they're friends or cousins or whatever, but he allows him to crash on his couch, sleep in his basement or something, and for whatever reason he strangles him to death. He kills him, steals his credit cards and all his documents and information, and just, I don't know, he just goes off and just spends the money, I guess. Let's continue. Between February 2nd and February 5th, the suspect, Mr. Hatters, and a man named Chavez exchanged messages, including a chilling photo of Fallon sitting on his bed with his hands bound together by a piece of cloth. His face and clothing were covered in blood. The police tracked Fallon's stolen car to a local business where Mr. Hatters was found inside. The vehicle contains Fallon's credit cards, keys, PIN numbers, and documents bearing Hatters' name. Now, as you can see, this suspect, this criminal, wasn't the most intelligent individual. He thought that he was going to steal the guy's car, his credit cards, all his information, and he was going to live off the guy's inheritance, all off his money, right? As if the authorities are not going to realize that a man has died, but somehow transactions are still being made on his accounts, right? This guy obviously wasn't the most experienced or established criminal in the arena of criminality. Now, I wonder if Steven Crowder will look at a situation like this, right? And will he attribute this to the race of the individual who committed the act or committed the crime, right? Is he going to say, damn, this is what happens when you allow a certain demographic to live inside your home as a guest, right? They're going to strangle you to death and steal your credit cards and steal your car, right? Would he do that? No, he would never. He would say, no, this is an individual interaction. This is just this one guy, a crazy guy, and right? He wouldn't attribute this interaction or this behavior to the race of the people, right? But he thinks that an interaction between children is a valid excuse to justify casting entire stereotypes upon an entire group of people. And he actually believes that he's intelligent and he's a critical thinker. Now, anyway, let's continue. Next story, October 17th, today, a Florida man shoots a woman after insulting her on the way to play cards and then gets beat up by her husband. Let's get into it. A Florida man is facing felony charges after allegedly shooting at a woman following a verbal altercation. Right, so listen, Steven Crowder, he's talking about some incident between children at an amusement park, but this is what your demographic is out here doing, getting into arguments in random parking lots and pulling out deadly heat, deadly artillery on random women, right? You talking about children, but you have your elders in the community pulling out heavy artillery against random women in the street, right? But of course, if we were to judge your entire demographic based off this individual, you would get upset and you would cry foul, right? So like I said, Steven Crowder, you got to keep it consistent across the board. Can we also cast stereotypes and negative propaganda against your entire demographic based off the actions of this 76-year-old man, this elder, this seasoned gentleman who should know right from wrong and be an example for the youth, but instead he's pulling out heavy artillery, weaponry against women in the street because of a verbal altercation. Now, anyway, let's get into it. Michael Phillips was arrested after deputies responded to a shooting call. The incident began when Phillips approached a home to play cards. The victim and her husband were outside putting their dog into a car. The witnesses state that as Phillips was walking inside the house, he allegedly insulted the woman with a highly offensive name. Phillips then allegedly pulled a gun from his pocket and shot the victim in the arm. The victim's husband immediately ran to his wife's defense and began pummeling Mr. Phillips, taking the gun away and placing it on the table. So damn, you got disarmed and you got beat down in the street. That's crazy. That's why he looking like that. When deputies arrived, they found the victim with a gunshot wound and Mr. Phillips with visible trauma to his face. After his arrest, Mr. Phillips admitted to pulling out a gun, and when asked by police why he brandished the gun, he offered a bizarre justification. He said that he had questions and believed that was the only way that he was able to get answers, and he also believed that it was legal. Phillips claimed somebody grabbed him and the gun went off accidentally. Now, next story. A mom and her boyfriend is charged after a toddler dies covered in bruises and cigarette burns. Now that's what I'm saying. Steven Crowder, are we allowed to take any of these scenarios as well and then attribute this to the race of the perpetrators and then judge the entire group they belong to? Steven Crowder, is that a logical conclusion that we can take? Let me know. Anyway, also keep in mind, all the stories we mentioned, all these articles have just came out in the past, 24 hours, 48 hours, everything we discussed so far, right? So can we take any of these recent stories and then attach it to the group? Let me know. Let's get into it. 33-year-old Christian Parnell, now Christian, that's the woman, her name is Christian, and her boyfriend Curtis are facing up to 30 years in prison. The toddler was pronounced dead shortly after being transported to the hospital with head trauma and marks of abuse. Investigators determined that the severity of these injuries were not consistent with the vague explanation provided by the couple. The couple offered a story that could not explain the trauma. Ms. Parnell claims that the injury occurred 10 days earlier when the boy fell off the bed, but she ultimately admitted to the detectives that in the 10 days leading up to her son's death, she did not take the child to the hospital or allow him to go to daycare, and the child's condition deteriorated a week earlier with his head swelling and a loss of appetite and lethargy. The couple finally called 911 only after the boy began vomiting and his eyes rolled to the back of his head. Now, I noticed in that clip, if you notice, Steven Crowder also mentioned the children, the black children not having a father in the home. He said something like, I went to go talk to the black parent. There was no father around. Well, listen, this is what happens inside the white community, even when you have men inside the house, right? You have children dying. Don't even take them to the hospital, right? Actually, this wasn't even the child's father. This was the mom's boyfriend, right? So single mom, got the mom's boyfriend inside the house, children starving, dying, getting beat to death, right? Are we allowed to cast judgments upon the entire group based off the actions of the single mother? Let me know. Let me know. It's a bunch of single mothers in your community, committing all types of acts of irresponsibility, right? So anyway, let's get into the next story. An ICU nurse screams death threats at the cops during a stop for DWI and tells them, don't go to my hospital because I will let you die, right? So this is what happened, man. Like Steven Crowder, listen, if we're talking about, individual interactions, can we use these individual interactions to judge the entire collective? Now, I have no problem if that's the game we're playing, if that's the rule we're playing, then let's engage. But just let me know the parameters. Let me know the rules of engagement so I can also, join you in the activities. Now, anyway, let's get into this story. A nurse has been fired from her hospital job after making racist remarks and shocking death threats to the police. Miss Crystal Tadlock was pulled over for speeding. The officer noted a strong odor of alcohol, bloodshot eyes, and slurred speech. During her arrest, Ms. Tadlock became belligerent, making death threats and derogatory comments that were captured on video. Ms. Tadlock identified herself as a nurse and allegedly threatened the officer and his family, saying, when you come to my hospital, don't worry, I'll let you die, all of your family members. She repeated the threat to the jail staff, stating that she would ensure that they die if they ever came to the hospital. The nurse also made racist comments about the ethnicity and the accent of the officers, saying that they could not speak straight because they have an accent from another country, and called them half American. Ms. Tadlock also leveraged her race to avoid arrest, stating that she was going to be getting out because she's white. The hospital took swift action, first suspending Ms. Tadlock and then confirming that she had been terminated. Now, listen, this lady got a few drinks into her system and she started speaking as if she was at the dinner table, right? She started speaking as if she was around friends and family. Listen, we're going to get out of jail because we white. Anyway, let's continue. Next story. A man upset over traffic caused by a crash pulls out a pistol and threatens witnesses and drives a pickup truck over the lawn to get away. My God. A New Hampshire man is facing felony charges after pulling out a gun on witnesses because of traffic. Police stated that Mr. Eric Chadbourne, driving a white pickup truck, was unhappy at the traffic had come to a stop and needed to get to his residence down the street. Witnesses who had rushed to help the crash victims tried to stop Mr. Chadbourne from driving around the scene. So apparently there was a car crash. He was upset because the car crash was causing traffic. One witness recalled telling him, "The guy's over here laying on the ground. We cannot let you go by." Mr. Chadbourne repeatedly reached for a pistol in his pocket before eventually pulling out a gun into the open air. Ignoring the severity of the crash, Mr. Chadbourne drove over a lawn, nearly hitting a wall to get around the crash scene. Right? So listen, Steven Crowder, can we judge an entire collective based off the action of a barbarian? I have no problem with it, but just let me know the rules of engagement. Now, let's continue. Next story, October 17th, today. A man has been arrested for illegal acts against minors and the distribution of illegal images and videos involving minors. Let's get into it. A Maryland man has been arrested on serious charges. The arrest was the result of a coordinated investigation involving the Maryland State Police and the FBI and the U.S. Marshals. The investigation was launched after authorities received a cyber tip from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children regarding financial transactions leading to illegal images and videos involving minors. Authorities executed a search warrant at the suspect's residence, the suspect Alexander Crum, and seized multiple electronic devices for forensic analysis. Mr. Crum was arrested at his place of employment and is currently being held without bond. Now, once again, Steven Crowder, are we allowed to take the actions of this individual and then judge the collective by that standard? Now, this is not even one individual, because when we go to the data that has been collected by the United States Sentencing Commission and we look at the demographics of those who actually get involved in the crimes categorized as the exploitation of children, and we look at 98% of those individuals are men, but over 70%, almost 80% of those are white men. Are we allowed to now cast certain stereotypes against the collective, even though the numbers and the statistics paint a very disturbing story? Are we allowed to do that? Would I be wrong if I did that? Steven Crowder, let me know. Because when you look at these stats, these numbers, obviously you can see this activity and behavior is not relegated to one individual instance or circumstance. It's obviously something that a particular group or demographic gets involved in very frequently, to the point where they dominate the statistics, right? So would I be wrong to attach that to your entire demographic, to your race? Would I be wrong to do that? Keep in mind, your demographic is only 29% of the United States population, right? Your demographic of men is only 29% of the United States population, and over 70%, almost 80% of those involved in a certain sector of crime. So would I be wrong to attach that activity or that behavior to an entire group of people in similar ways that you guys do, right? Similar ways you attach certain activities or behaviors to entire groups. Would I be wrong to extend the same favor to you, to return the favor to you? Like I say, man, it's just an observation. It's just pattern recognition. That's all. Next story, October 17th, today. A man has been charged with possession of illegal images and videos involving minors. Now, like I say, man, not a single day goes by. I'm not even going to bother giving them the challenge anymore. Like I said, 2 days in a row, I gave y'all the challenge. Go 24 hours without committing a single crime against the children. You failed 2 days in a row. So I'm not even going to give you the challenge anymore. And even if I gave you the challenge today, you already failed, because we already have 2 arrests. We already have 2 stories in the same day. So you already failed today, even if I gave you the challenge. So I realize I've come to terms with the fact that you guys can't go a single day without committing criminal acts against vulnerable populations. It's truly a shame. It's truly a shame. Welcome to the culture, man. Now, let's get into this guy's story. A New Jersey man has been arrested and charged with felony possession of illegal images and videos involving minors following an investigation by the Bergen County prosecutors. Mr. Stephen Grossman of New Jersey was arrested after a search warrant was executed at his residence. The investigation uncovered a massive digital collection. The investigation revealed that Mr. Grossman allegedly used the internet to view, download, and possess a large quantity of illegal material. Authorities confirmed that Grossman possessed more than 100 digital files depicting naked and explicit images of... Never mind, man. Listen, y'all are on a different level, bro. You guys are on a different level, different planet, different stratosphere. Listen, in this arena, I'll admit, when it comes to this arena, you guys are supreme. This is the one arena where I'll actually acknowledge your supremacy. Now, anyways, Jesus Christ. Now, you know what's crazy? This guy was actually in the news like 2 years ago for the same crime. But in fact, I think both him and his father, right? Him and his father were both arrested for illegal images and videos involving minors, bro. Let's go back to his old arrest from a couple years ago. Take a look up on the screen. It's crazy what's happening in the community, man. This was back in October 2023. So 2 years ago, almost 2 years to the date, a New Jersey councilman and his son are on house arrest after being busted for possessing thousands of illegal images and videos involving minors. Now, Steven Crowder, I remember in that clip, he was talking about, the black father, their father wasn't there. When he was talking about the kids at the amusement park, he was like, they don't have a father in the house. But look at what the father in the house produces in the white households, right? Fathers and sons bonding, spending time together, spending quality time, father and son time, indulging in illegal images and videos involving minors, right? Listen, now, just to be clear, I have a father, right? My father's in my life. My father, very successful black man, millionaire. But I would rather have no father than to have a father who is introducing me and indulging in these type of activities, right? I would rather have no father than to have a father who sits around watching illegal images and videos involving minors, right? Me and him both, indulging. Instead of going to the park and playing ball, we watching illegal images and videos involving minors. I would rather have no father if that was the choices. If the choice was no father or having a father like this, I would rather have no father. Luckily, I have an amazing father, but if those were my options, Steven Crowder, you need to go to your community and talk about the fathers in your community that are introducing their children into this type of debauchery. Now, anyway, let's get into this story. Like I said, this guy got arrested 2 years ago with his father, and his father is a councilman in New Jersey, right? His father is the councilman for the state, and they're both watching illegal images and videos together, bro. Let's get into it. A father and son duo in New Jersey, both educators and one serving as the council president in New Jersey, were arrested and charged with felonies related to illegal images and videos involving minors. Despite the severe nature of the case, they were released from jail less than a week later to house arrest, right? So they didn't even get no time in jail. The city councilman got caught with the illegal images, house arrest. You and your son, house arrest. 2 years later, the son gets arrested again on the same charges, man. Went right back into the community, kept coming after the children. Anyway, let's continue. Mr. Jeffrey Grossman, the current council president and a veteran social studies teacher, and his son, Stephen Grossman, a teacher and a social worker, were charged with second-degree possession of illegal content. The father and son duo were arrested after investigators executed a search warrant and discovered a catastrophic collection of illegal materials inside the house. The son, Stephen Grossman, possessed over 1,000 depictions of illegal content of children from the ages of 10 and 13. And the father, Jeffrey Grossman, possessed over 17,500 illegal images and videos of girls on his device. Both the men were immediately suspended and barred from the school district where they were teaching. The father is also facing public pressure to resign from his position as council president. Despite the location of their home being just 500 feet from the elementary school, a judge granted house arrest for the father and son as they await trial. My God. Oh, man, listen, that's why the nurse said what she said when she got arrested. Remember the nurse earlier in the video? She said, I'm going to get out because I'm white, right? I'm going to get off with a slap on the wrist because I'm white. This is what they talking about. My man, they came up on a crazy collection. Damn near 20,000 images of the illegal images and videos of 10-year-olds, and they got house arrest, and they live like a block away from the school, and they don't even got to move. Man, that's why the lady said, listen, I'm going to get out because I'm white. Let's continue. Next story, October 17th, today. A 4-month investigation leads to an arrest of a man for illegal images and videos involving minors. Now, listen, that's why I knew I didn't even bother giving y'all the challenge for today, right? Because y'all failed the challenge 2 days in a row. So I said, I'm not even gonna embarrass them like that. Didn't even give you the challenge, because even if I gave you the challenge, you would have failed miserably today. Three stories in a row today alone. My God. And I have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories from like the previous 3-5 months that I could always go back to and I'm so backed up with stories, and the new stories keep coming in every day that I don't got time to go back to the old stories yet. Listen, y'all got to get it together, man. 29% of the population, almost 80% of the offenses, truly despicable and disturbing. Truly Unbelievable. Let's continue. Let's get into this story. Detectives arrested Mr. Rose Magnus during a search of a Bellevue residence where they seized multiple devices containing illegal images and videos. Mr. Magnus allegedly admitted to receiving and distributing illegal content involving minors on a wide range of social media and file sharing platforms, including Kik, Telegram, Dropbox. Mr. Magnum currently faces charges for possession and distribution. Next story. A mom advised a stepfather on how to beat the children and kept them in a filthy, trash-filled house with mold and inedible food. Right? Now listen, Steven Crowder, are we allowed to take the actions of these single mothers in your community, right? The welfare queens of your community, right? Are we allowed to take the actions of those individuals and then apply that stereotype to the entire population? Like I said, let me know the rules of engagement. Let's get into this story. Authorities arrived at a home to find conditions so severe that children themselves gave statements describing the dire state of affairs. A detective described trash covering the entire floor inside the home and a strong scent of feces. The children alleged that trash and animal feces littered the floors, the furniture, and even their beds. The investigators noted that all of the food in the refrigerator and the cabinet was expired. The alleged victims described a life where they frequently had no food to eat. The authorities also alleged the children were pulled out of the public school system and stopped attending any form of education activities. Beyond the horrific neglect, authorities alleged the children were subjected to physical threats and abuse by their parents. One child recalled a deeply disturbing incident where their mother, Mindy Mooney, the suspect, allegedly advised the stepfather on how to physically beat the children. The child said their mother, Miss Mooney, told the husband that when you hit the children, make sure you hit them in the throat. Now, I'm sure Steven Crowder would never attribute these behaviors and actions to the race of the perpetrator, right? And I'm sure when these maladjusted children go out into the world and probably commit, atrocities on other children as well, Steven Crowder will not attribute those actions to their race, right? He'll attribute it to, their tough upbringing, their harsh upbringing, right? That is why they went out and committed a school shooting, right? So, like I said, man, you guys got to keep the rules of engagement consistent across the board. That's all I'm saying. I have no problem engaging you on your, at your level, but just let me know what we doing. And also, that's why I always say these guys always talking about the fathers, the black fathers, and the black fathers are important, but you can only lay judgment upon the black fathers if the fathers in your community have a clean record. Are the fathers in your community models of fatherhood, right? Like I said, 29% of the population, almost 80% of the offenses when it comes to the exploitation of children. So if you ask me, having a father in the white community doesn't sound like all it's cracked up to be, right? You have a father in this home right now, and the mother is encouraging abuse. There's no food to eat. All the food is expired. There's feces on the floor in the beds with the man inside the house. So that goes to show with the white man inside the house, it don't mean nothing. There's feces on the floor. So like I said, Steven Crowder, you really have to, look at what's happening in your community, right? That's all I'm saying, bro. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, next story, October 17th, today, a man has been arrested for illegal images and videos involving minors. Now, god damn, bro. Like I said, I didn't even bother giving y'all the challenge today because I knew, listen, imagine I gave y'all the challenge and y'all failed this miserably. I'm never giving y'all that challenge anymore. I'm never going to embarrass y'all like that. I know that's too difficult for y'all to accomplish. 24 hours without any crimes against the children. What was I thinking that you could go 24 hours without harming the children? Silly me. I'm silly. I'm goofy. Let's continue. Next story, October 16th, yesterday, a man has been arrested for crimes against minors and illegal images and videos involving minors. God damn. Oh, man, like I always say, you notice when the weekend comes around, these stories pick up. You notice that, right? We observed that during the weekend, man, the crimes against the children, it doubles up, it triples up. You notice that. During the week, it's kind of standard. We get a few stories each day, but during the weekend, bro, I'm overloaded with stories. I'm backed up with stories, bro. It's crazy. Anyway, let's continue. A man has been arrested and charged with felony counts. The defendant, William Strack, was arrested after the police received allegations of illegal activity involving minors and possession of illegal images and videos. The investigation involved a coordinated effort between the local police and the New York State Police Computer Crimes Unit and the United States Department of Homeland Security. Authorities executed a search warrant at his residence, and Mr. Strack was sent to Franklin County Jail to await a court appearance. Like I said, every single day, federal indictment, every single day, new arrest, every single day, search warrants being executed on your residence. Steven Crowder, you should talk about that. go to the white barbershop and talk about that. Let's continue. Next story, October 17th, today, a couple hours ago, a man has been arrested for attempting to solicit a 15-year-old. Like I said, man, when the weekend comes around, it gets crazy. Let's get into it. It's crazy what's happening in the community. A man has been arrested after trying to offer money to a 15-year-old girl in exchange for illegal acts. The police say the 15-year-old was actually an adult posing as a teenager on social media. The detective set up surveillance at the Super 8 motel where they saw the suspect, 63-year-old Christopher Root, walk in the room. He was quickly placed under arrest. Man, listen, y'all stay getting caught up in these sting operations. Your lust is clouding your brain so much you don't even stop to think, could this be law enforcement on the other end of the line? Man, listen, true depravity in the community. Let's continue. October 17th, today, a man has been arrested for shooting multiple rounds at a car with a baby inside. Man, wow. And Steven Crowder wants to make a scene. He wants to make a big deal out of something that happened between two kids at the water park, at the playground, right? That kid pushed my kid. The black kid pushed my kid, right? But you have grown adult white men shooting rounds into cars with babies inside. Right. But if we were to judge the collective based off the actions of this individual, Steven Crowder would get upset, and those like him would get upset because they're not consistent in their ideology. They don't have an ideology. Their only ideology is expressing hostility. That's all it is. Let's continue. Next story, October 17th, today, a man has been arrested in North Carolina for crimes against minors that occurred in Virginia. Man, listen, so many stories coming in on the weekend, man. Wow, you guys are out of control. You guys are out of control. Let's continue. A man pointed an AR-15 rifle at his friends inside a house, and a victim was killed when the rifle went off. Now, you guys are pulling out AR-15s in the living room and busting off shots in the living room, bro. You talking about Steven Crowder talking about something that happened at the park. You guys are shooting at cars with babies inside. You guys are pulling out AR-15s inside residential homes. Like, bro. You got feces inside the bedroom. Like, what is happening? Fathers and sons getting caught with the illegal images and videos. Father and son bonding over illegal images. Yo, your community is a tragedy. Now, take a look up on the screen. This was the victim, unfortunately, right? So he was just kicking it with his friend, and his friend, I guess, was just horsing around, pulled out the AR-15. I guess he was just playing with it. And then I don't know if it was an accident or on purpose, but the bottom line is the gun went off, the rifle went off, hit him in the chest. He died immediately, died at the scene, right? So that's what I'm saying. Are we allowed to take instances like this and use the same logic as Steven Crowder, right? Attaching individual scenarios, negative attributes to an entire group, and then justifying my negative sentiments based off this one incident. Are we allowed to do the same? Let me know. If it's fair game, let's do it, bro. But if it's not fair game, because I notice you guys never keep the same energy when it comes to yourself, right? You're quick to attach negative stereotypes and branding to other groups. But when it comes to you, you're very sensitive. You're quick to deflect and you're quick to avoid accountability. But when it comes to other groups, you want them to be held accountable for their worst or their worst. But when it comes to you, even in criminal activity you dominate, you never want to be held accountable. Even when you're almost 80% of the offenders in a certain crime, you still try to deflect regardless. You're allergic to accountability. You're not a man, you're a boy. So like I said, man, you guys are the clowns of the world, right? You guys are the clowns of the world, and that's why we have the culture to show everybody that you're the clowns of the world, the clowns of the planet, right? With no ideology. Your ideology changes from night and day depending on the scenario or the story. There's no consistency in your foundation, right? You don't keep the same energy across the board. You don't act like a man. A man is solid in his beliefs. His beliefs do not change based off circumstance, right? Your beliefs change based off circumstance, right? What you do to other people, you don't want them to do to you. You are a hypocrite, the physical manifestation of hypocrisy. And you guys have to address that and confront that before you point the fingers at other groups, man. So anyways, it's your boy Neferkari. That's the lane back in the Billy. Yes, indeed. Second single of the next project, The Spy and Bamako. Pin comment at the top. Subscribe to the Patreon, NTD1814. And I'm gone. Peace.
Feel like a see me, I feel like I'm Saudi or ran up on Yan in the middle of Bamako. Enemy line, they claiming he innocent. Don't do no talking, I gotta move militant. Don't do no talking, I hit him with facts. 1804, bringing it back. 1804 like I'm Mother Cap Henry. King with the vision, the crown never empty. Top of the mountain, my soldiers defend me. Ducking and dodging the foreign intelligence. Hitting my dance on the DGSE. Dodging they traps, still on my feet. Feeling impeccable, feel like I'm shining. Go to my neck and I'm flooded with diamonds. Go to my neck and I feel like a mess. Feel like a lion, I'm in the savannah. Feel like the king when I'm up in the jungle. Never defeated, I never been humble. Come out victorious every encounter. Money machine give me help when I count it. Money machine stack it up in a beat. Heart of a king and I ride for the team. Weight of the world got it stuck on my shoulders. Bet you can feel it, my heart getting colder. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy try, but I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison, hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she pressure. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy try, but I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison, hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she pressure. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater.